Today's episode of the Get Paid for Your Pad podcast is brought to you by Hostfully, the market leader in digital guidebooks for short-term rental hosts. With Hostfully, you can create a beautiful online guidebook that you can send to your guests so they have a better experience and you get fewer questions. Sign up now at hostfully.com to get 2 months for free by using code PAD. That's PAD.
Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome.
Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad.
Welcome to podcast episode number 376. So today I want to talk about a topic that I've never talked about before really on this podcast, but I've come to realize that it's actually a really important topic for any Airbnb host, no matter how many units you have. It's something that can really help your life get a lot easier, and also it can allow you to grow your operations. So the topic of today is systems. So I'm going to talk about what is a system, why are they important for hosts, and what are the challenges that we run into and how to solve them. Now, if you're hosting on Airbnb, you're probably already using systems, because a system really is, in my mind, is kind of anything that you document. So it could be an SOP, could be a checklist, could be a template. Now, almost every Airbnb host has a template, at least, for example, for messages that you send out, like your booking confirmation. You probably have a template for that. And if you don't, then you want to make one right now, because that's probably the first thing that we can turn into a system, right? The welcome email that we send out to our guests. So even if you have that in a Google Doc, or you just save it on your phone, or even on the Airbnb website, you can have templates these days. So, even if you have that, then you're already using systems. But you can probably use a lot more systems, and that will allow you to save a lot of time. But there's a lot more benefits to using systems, and also having your systems documented in a way that it's easy for you to find them, but also other people to find them. So honestly, this is something that I've only come to realize the importance of all of this in the last year or so. As you probably know, me and Eric came together about a year ago, and we kind of went all in on the education, and we hired an employee who was actually an expert at systems. And his name is John. You might have heard him on this podcast before. But John is going to do a training on systems on Friday. Actually, as you probably know, we have a big live event going on starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. PST, 1 p.m. EST, and Friday the same time, 10 a.m. PST, 1 p.m. EST. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do so at strlegends.com/register. But basically, John is going to dive really deep into this topic. But on this podcast, I want to really talk about like how I've been using systems in my Airbnb business since all the way back to 2012, and why they're so important, and some challenges and solutions as well. So let's dive in. So what is it? What is a system? Well, essentially, a system it's a method of solving a repeated business issue in a strategic and effortless way. So that's the definition that I found somewhere. But essentially what it is it's any type of document that has information that will help you perform a certain task in your business. Now, whether that's you or somebody else, right? So a cleaning checklist, or an inventory checklist, or just even like a document that describes like a couple action steps that you should take in order to send out an Airbnb message, right? It could be as simple as, hey, step 1, log into the Airbnb account. This is the login. This is the password. Click on this button. Click on that button. Go here, go there, and then do this. Those are systems. And it's funny because systems, it's not a very sexy topic, but it's so powerful. Like if you actually take the time to develop systems in your Airbnb business. And I'm going to go over why it's so important, and how it can really benefit you. But I wanna start with kind of telling you how I started implementing systems all the way back in 2012. Because when I started hosting, I was actually traveling, and back in 2012, as you may remember, Wi-Fi was not widely available, and also 3G or 4G or even 5G was, it existed, but it just was very unreliable. Especially when you were if you travel to like, remote places, then you can't really rely on the fact that you always have internet. And the first thing I realized when I started hosting on Airbnb, I ran into some issues because I didn't always have Wi-Fi, right? So I would check my messages, and then I would have a message from like a day ago. I would respond to it, and then I realized that that person had already booked another place. So I couldn't respond to my booking requests and my messages very fast because I always had to find a place to get an internet connection, and that was really a challenge. And even like not it wasn't even that, but also just sleeping. Like I would wake up and I would have a message from somebody who was interested in my Airbnb listing, and then that message was received, maybe 6 hours ago when I was sleeping, and then I would respond to it, and I realized even responding to a message 6 hours after you receive it, there's already a chance that that person has already booked something else. Whereas if I would have responded, within a couple minutes, I might have been able to secure that booking. So I just felt like I was really missing out on bookings. And so what I did was, I hired a virtual assistant because I realized like I can't always be online to respond to these messages, especially if I'm in a location where there's no Wi-Fi. And I wanted to travel to places where there's no Wi-Fi. And so I started thinking like, how can I create some sort of system, some sort of process where, it's not, my Airbnb business is not reliant on me. And so the first thing I did was I hired a virtual assistant. But then I ran into the next challenge because that virtual assistant didn't really know how to respond to messages. She didn't really know what bookings to accept and what bookings to decline. Because essentially, I think everybody who starts with Airbnb hosting in the beginning, everyone's kind of just operating from memory, right? And you kind of use your gut feeling to make decisions and stuff. And so, when I first hired that virtual assistant, I really had to think and understand like, hey, why am I declining this booking? Why am I approving this booking? Like how can I document that in a way that my virtual assistant actually understands it? So the first thing I realized that I didn't actually really know why I was doing certain things. Right. So I think that's the first benefit of creating a system, is it really forces you to think like, why am I making this particular decision? Right? Why am I sending this message? Why am I wording it this way? Why am I approving this booking? Why am I declining this booking? Right? And this goes into all the different activities that we have to do as an Airbnb host, which is quite a lot, right? Think about like pricing, your booking settings, like why you're setting your minimum stay at 2 nights or 3 nights or 1 night, and why are you pricing the weekends you price it this way, and then during the week. There's so many different decisions that you have to make as an Airbnb host, and if you start documenting everything, then it really forces you to figure out like, hey, am I actually doing this how I want to do it, or maybe I'm just kind of lazy and just kind of just trying to get things done. So that's the first benefit. Like it really forced me to really think deep on how I was running the Airbnb listing. So once I figured out how I wanted to do everything, then the next challenge was, how do I now explain that in a way to my virtual assistant in a way that it makes sense to her? Because the thing is, like, our brains all work a little bit different. And especially if you've been operating from memory for a while, a lot of things might make a lot of sense to you, but it won't make sense to somebody else. So that's the second challenge that I ran into. Like I documented everything I was doing, and I told my VA like, hey, here's all the documents. here's that it has everything you need to know, right? And so then a couple weeks later, I was looking at how my virtual assistant was handling everything, and I realized, okay, she's not doing it according to how I would do it. And so initially I felt like, okay, well, maybe this person is not fit for the right person to help me with this. But then I realized it's actually the problem wasn't that. It was that it just didn't, the way I documented it, the way I described everything just wasn't making sense to her, right? So it forced me to really explain everything in a very, very simple way. And I think that's the second, I don't know if the second or the third, but that's a challenge that everyone's going to run into when you start creating these systems. Is you have to get really good at describing something in a way that anybody would understand what it means, right? So you get really good at explaining things like with very simple wording, and in just a logical way for anybody to understand it, right? And then there's like, for the my cleaner, I also realized like I need to have a system for her, not only because she was operating from memory too, and I realized, hey, if we're building all these systems, we might as well build all of them. And so I asked her to document everything that she was doing, right? So how is she cleaning the unit? Because I realized too that if she's ever going to go on holiday, or if she for whatever reason can't do the cleaning, then how am I going to replace her, right? If I just go out and hire a random person to do the cleaning last minute, if she's sick or something, then that person will have no idea how to clean my home and how to do the turnover. So I worked with my cleaning lady to create a system on how she would do the cleaning, where to find the cleaning materials, how to stage the unit, like where to put the towels, and everything that you do to prepare the home for the next guest. And also how to communicate back to my virtual assistant that the cleaning was done, right? So there's actually, it's kind of interesting that just having one unit, it's not a big business, right? But still, if you really want to document all of the processes, then it's still quite a lot, right? But once I got through all this, it was great. It was awesome. I remember the first time I felt comfortable that everything was in place for me to actually go on a trip somewhere where I didn't have Wi-Fi. It was in 2013. I went to this tiny little island in Fiji. So not, Fiji is a bunch of islands. There's one main island. The island that I went to is actually free. It's a 3-hour boat ride from the main island. So the main island's already pretty small and remote, but imagine you still have a 3-hour boat ride out to some tiny little island. There was one little village on the island, and the people that lived there, I don't think they've ever been off the island. So it's a very, very remote place. And there was only one resort. And there was no Wi-Fi. I mean, talk about Wi-Fi. They didn't even have electricity. I mean, the resort had a generator, but that was about it. So it was a great time. It was a great time disconnecting. I had a blast, but I pretty much was disconnected from the world for 2 weeks. Even though they did have a Wi-Fi network, but it was just not working. It was really expensive as well, I remember. So I wasn't really using it. But I did feel a bit anxious because, it just feels a bit scary that you suddenly you have no control over what's happening with your listing, with your Airbnb listing. And that at the time, that was my main source of income, right? So I really didn't want things to go wrong. But after 2 weeks, when I first really connected to the internet and, looked at all the messages and talked to my cleaner and talked to my VA and everything, it turned out that everything went smoothly. There was no problems at all. And that was a great moment, where I realized, wow, this is awesome. I can literally just go anywhere, disconnect, and, everything runs like a machine. So that's kind of how I, was kind of forced really to create all the systems. But what I see with the students in our groups and everybody I talk to is a lot of people don't have these systems in place, and which is understandable because it's building really good systems is number one, it's not easy. I mean, it's a lot easier to just operate from memory than to build a system, right? Especially if you're busy, if you have a job, or if you will run multiple units. To build all these systems out, it's so much time. And so it's just much easier to just do something than to sit down and actually like think about, hey, how do I do it? Do I want to change it? And how do I document it? And how do I document it in a way that'll make sense to somebody else? But even if you do everything yourself, imagine like you do everything yourself, even the cleaning you do yourself. I believe it's still a really good idea to create these systems, again, because it not only is going to help you to really understand, like, okay, am I doing it the right way, or should I change certain things? But if you ever want to outsource to somebody else what you're doing, then it's going to be so much easier for them to take over the tasks, because you have everything documented. And then if you have to let go of that person, or that person goes on holiday, you have to hire somebody else to do the work, then again, it's so much easier. Plus, that person can also help you improve your systems. Because when I build out my systems for my cleaner and my virtual assistant, at some point, they actually started improving the systems and changing them, and making them better, which is also really awesome. So that's another benefit of a system, is once a system is really well written out and it makes sense, then the person who's using it, you're actually empowering that person to even improve your system, right? But it's challenging. There's a learning curve. It really takes a lot of brain power to describe something in details such that it makes sense to other people. And then also you have to figure out, how do you want to organize your systems, and what's an easy way to share them with other people, right? So in our company, we use what we call a playbook, which is essentially, it's a central location where all of our systems are linked up, which is something that John introduced to us. And again, John is going to go really deep into systems on Friday, starting at 10 a.m. PST, our virtual event. So if you want to learn more about systems, highly recommend you sign up for that live event. Due to COVID, it's now more important than ever that your guests actually read your house rules and check-in instructions. And there's no better way to deliver that information than by using an online Hostfully guidebook. You can build your guidebook in just a few hours and simply include a link to your guidebook in your welcome email. Your guests can access it on desktop, on mobile, and they can even print it out. Now, as a result, you look super professional. Your guests have a better experience, as they don't have to read through endless paragraphs of text. Instead, they can go through a nice looking guidebook with lots of visuals. That means fewer questions for you, more time for you to focus on other areas of your hosting business. Sign up now at hostfully.com and use code PAD to get your first 2 months for free. That's hostfully.com, HOSTFULLY.com, code PAD, which is PAD. But yeah, so going back to, why these systems are so important is, obviously it does save you time. It saves you time in the long term, right? It takes time to build them. So it takes time on the short term, but it really can save you so much time in the long term. It allows you to delegate your tasks to other people. It also will allow you to perform your tasks better and use less brain power to perform something. Because when we operate from memory, oftentimes we forget little details, and so we really have to kind of dig into our brain to really remember, like, okay, how do I do this exactly, right? And we'll forget things. So what happens is that oftentimes we'll make mistakes, or we'll forget things. So it also really helps you to get more consistent results. When you're performing a task and you just open up a document and you just follow step 1 to step 10, you don't have to think about it, and you can use that brain power somewhere else, because we all have limited brain power every single day, right? There's only so much you can really focus on. And so having systems in place really allows you to to perform your tasks like more consistently using less brain power, so you can use that brain power for something else, right? Now, the other thing I mentioned is like you can really empower all other people to delegate and improve your systems. There's less room for error, and it just really helps you to get yourself in a position where if you wanted to, you could easily add more units to your portfolio too, because you already have everything documented, right? So how you do one thing for one listing is probably how you can want to do it for another listing too. I mean, there's differences, but a lot of the stuff will be very similar. But I would say like maybe even the most important reason to learn how to build great systems is that I've come to realize that it's a super, super valuable personal skill to know how to build great systems. Because as Eric and I have been, teaching so many students over the years, and also in our mastermind with the SDR Legends, we realized this is one of the biggest challenges in any. I would even go as far as to say, like, not just in the short-term rental space, but I just spent 4 days in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, hanging out with 10 of my best friends, and they're all entrepreneurs, and they're all run businesses, and about half of them run businesses that are 7-figure businesses. So, pretty substantial businesses that they're running. And I was talking to them about what their biggest challenges were and the biggest learning lessons and all of that, and consistently creating systems, maintaining systems, and finding people to operate the systems and to create them. That is the number one challenge that all businesses face, right? So if you get really good at building systems, then you basically become a very, very attractive person for somebody to hire. Like if we ask in our mastermind, like, who are you looking to hire? Like, what's that one person that would really move the needle in your business? A lot of our operators will say an operations person, somebody who's really good at systems, right? So, if you become a master at building out systems and organizing them and stuff, that's just a massive personal skill that's going to be useful to you, I think, for not just in your Airbnb business, but in any type of employment or any type of business that you would start in the future. This is an incredibly important and valuable skill. So obviously it depends on what your hosting business looks like and what your goals are and all of that. If you're running 1 or 2 listings, then you could probably operate from your memory and you could do a really good job at it, right? But if you ever want to expand, or if you ever want to work for a company in the short-term rental industry, then being able to create these systems, having experience with it would be a massive pro, right? But again, if you really want to start creating some systems, or if you want to get good at creating systems, then go ahead and sign up for our live event. We start tomorrow on Thursday at 10 a.m. PST. We'll go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then on Friday we'll do another event that starts at 10 a.m. PST as well. We'll have myself. I'm going to be talking about technology. We have John talking about systems, and he's really the person that I learned all the systems from. So he actually used to work for a company that was focused on helping 6-figure businesses grow to 7-figure businesses, and he was the person who helped those businesses implement the systems. So that's why we kind of call him the systems guy. And his nickname is also Dr. Crush, because he always crushes it really hard. But yeah, he's really he's a master at this, and so I think his training is going to be super valuable. We also have Julie George, as you probably have heard of her. She's that woman in Australia who really crushed it in her market, growing her business up to 130 units and sold it. So that's it for today, guys. Again, tomorrow, Thursday, 10 a.m. Make sure you show up for our live event. If you haven't registered, sdrlegends.com/register. Looking forward to seeing everybody. It's going to be really fun. We've been working really hard here in our garage / HQ/office in Leucadia, just north of San Diego, to get ready for this event. It's going to be super fun. So look forward to seeing you all, and thanks for listening. And next week we'll be back. So see you then.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get